Hey guys, I'm Ted and I'm here to give you another fast fact. And for today's fast fact, we are going to discuss the Hartford Convention of 1814. Now, the Hartford Convention of 1814 was a convention called by federalists in New England to voice their dissatisfaction with the what was really all of the Democratic Republican policies, but in particularly their dissatisfaction with the Embargo Act of 1807, which hurt them more than any other region in the United States. The war with Great Britain, which they opposed and which continued to hurt them, as they could not trade with Great Britain, and has Great Britain continued to enforce a blockade against their Atlantic seaborne ports. Now, New England and the Federalist Party in general, both the region of New England and the Federalist Party, they were in dire straits. The party was being hurt from voicing opposition to the war, and the region of New England was hurt more than any other part of the United States by the British blockade. New England very much depended on seaborne commerce for their survival. They deeply distrusted Madison and the Democratic Republicans in general. The Federalist the top heavy Massachusetts legislature began everything when they passed a peace resolution suggesting that they, as a state, had the power to enter into separate peace negotiations with Great Britain to bring this war to an end. During the early republic, it was still fairly murky waters on how states and the federal governments on how their power interacted. Certainly, the Democratic Republicans could not, by virtue of their previous statements attesting to states' rights, particularly with the Virginia, Kentucky resolutions, they could not come out and say that Massachusetts didn't have this right. If these events had really come into further prominence, they would most likely have had to sit small on this matter. But after their peace resolution was after passing their own peace resolution, Massachusetts urged all of their fellow New Englanders to do the same, and things became so heated in New England that the New England states organized a convention at Hartford, Connecticut, to discuss what they referred to as Mr. Madison's War. 22 delegates were sent from all the states. And the delegates, the end result of this convention was a call for amendments to the Constitution to bring the wild powers of Mr. Madison to heel. And they even threatened at a second convention to be held in Boston should their proposals be rejected by the Democratic Republicans in Congress. Now, this second convention to be held in Boston will be held to discuss the possibility of secession from the federal union, secession from the United States. This was the second, not the first. Many people interpret it as the first attempt at secession by the states, but this was the second. As we will remember from our discussion on Adams's presidency, the Virginia Resolution of 1898, penned by President Madison himself, hinted at the state's ability to simply leave the federal union if their interests were not respected, if their interests were not protected by the federal government. And we'll also remember that the proposal to enter into peace negotiations to simply disregard federal law was also something that was supported by the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions penned by penned by Madison and Jefferson. They hinted at the 10th Amendment, at the powers of the 10th Amendment to undo for the states to undo unfavorable federal legislation, and also for the states to simply join together on their own to bring the federal government to heel. So these aren't really new arguments being made by the New Englanders at the Hartford Convention. Now, the threat of the Boston Convention, the second convention, echoed all of those Democratic Republican cries for states' rights. And then they echoed them surprisingly at Madison, who had been one of the main proponents in the 1790s of echoing states' rights against Hamilton. And as I stated earlier, they based their threat to secede from the federal union on Madison's own Virginia Resolution of 1898. Now, everything, all of these events came to naught because when the messengers sent to deliver the Hartford Convention's ultimatum to Madison and Congress, when they arrived in Washington, they found the people of Washington celebrating Andrew Jackson's victory at New Orleans and the end of the War of 1812, but the signing of the Peace Treaty of Ghent. With the war over, all of their threats really came to naught, and they were simply forced to slink back home and reiterate that that the convention and the convention's work was really all for naught. And that brings to an end our fast fact on the Hartford Convention. Let me know what you thought about the convention. Please hit like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, I'm Ted, and I'll see you guys later for another fast fact.